So we're going to show you some artificial intelligence in a search engine and how it's going to impact some healthcare. I'm very interested. So what I'm going to show you, right here is, let's see here. So before I go into this, I want you to envision for a moment that you are just a normal dude and you're going to go into Google and you're going to pose a question about medical something or other that impacts you. So Connor, what is something that you maybe asked Google in recent years? Like, oh my gosh, what is this bump on my elbow? What does this mean?
Right.
And then you go to WebMD. So what's something that you may have asked Google as just a normal guy?
One of them was a foot thing. I'm gonna save you guys the
Let's
trouble
skip the foot thing.
Yeah, we'll skip that. Another one is why are my bruises not healing super fast?
Why are my bruises?
I feel like
not healing.
My
super
bruises
fast?
are taking longer to heal.
Let's see here.
That's a good one, though. I mean, that's a good question.
Okay, ready? So here we go. I'm gonna do a quick share. So here we go. On the left here, if you guys are listening on the podcast, I will be as descriptive as I possibly can. We've got a screen up here. On the left, this is the new Bing with the ChatGPT integration into it. On the right is Google, just normal Google, right? I was Googling about hangovers. Sorry about that. So I don't have a hangover. That was a question that was posed to me, and I was trying to show an example.
Oh, sure, Devin,
Anyways.
sure.
Yeah,
story,
sure.
tell it anyway.
Everyone focus, please. We're getting focused here.
This is a professional podcast.
This is a professional podcast, right? Okay, so we're going to ask Bing the question that you've asked, right? The same thing like we would do Google. But let's start with Google because we're used to this.
We know what it's going to look like, yeah.
How would you type this into Google? So you're saying, why are my bruises not healing quickly?
Yeah, I feel like my bruises just take longer to heal. I fell
so you
at
might
a hockey
say
tournament and I fell and it's not healed yet and it really hurts.
Okay, so you might say bruises take longer to heal, right? Because that's how we search in Google. We use keywords. So let's see here. We got Cleveland Clinic. There's more blood for your body to clear out, so it takes more time. Bruises last 1 to 3 weeks on average. Then it says people are asking, can bruises take a long time to come out? Can bruises take longer than 2 weeks to heal? Then there's more on Cleveland Clinic, Alberta bruises, care instructions. And as we're going through this, we really have to decide what is going to answer our question, our query.
Sure.
So I'm not the subject matter expert. I'm just a normal guy. I want to know about my bruises. So let's ask Bing, the smart Bing. But we're going to use a full sentence. Okay. So can we give it a little bit of context and be specific about what your ask is? So you're saying, I was playing sports and got a bruise. It is taking longer to heal than normal. Why? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's about right. That's 100% happened.
Okay, now I'm going to hit search. Now what it's doing is I'm in the ChatGPT search engine, right, with Bing, the integration. So it's going to do a quick search and now it's going to respond to me. And the first thing it says 1 out of 10. All right, so I get 10 back and forth questions with this search engine now. The first thing it says is there could be several reasons why a bruise takes longer to heal than normal. Some people bruise more easily than others, and their bruises can take longer to heal. Causes include age, medications, vesiculitis. A bruise could also normally heal within a week to 10 days, but if it doesn't, there may be something going on. Then it asks me a question. Have you been taking any medication or have you had any other symptoms? I am now being assessed.
Wow.
We have now begun a conversation, right? So I can now respond. It's given me some options on the bottom. It says I can just click on it. It says, no, I haven't taken any medication. So I can just click to respond automatically, or I can answer. So Connor, let's do this with you. What is your response to the AI bot now?
I have not been taking medication.
So I haven't. Okay. And this bruise is taking longer than normal.
Yeah, it has
heal.
been about 4 weeks.
Okay, 4 weeks. I'm going to tell it. Where's the bruise?
That's on my elbow here.
The bruise is on my elbow. Does that matter? And also, why don't you go ahead and show this nurse, this critical care nurse, your elbow
He
while
was
you've got
there.
him on the chat?
He was playing in the game with
Yeah.
me.
Oh, so should I be more clear? A nurse hit me on the elbow. What do? He knew exactly where to strike me, so the bruise just would last
Just
forever.
right underneath the funny bone right here.
On the funny bone, and it wasn't
Yeah,
funny.
perfect.
Okay,
No.
so now the chat is now saying it typically takes 2 to 4 weeks for a bruised elbow to completely heal. It goes into some more information about if I've been putting stress. So Connor, if you've been putting stress on your elbow, don't do that. Then it says if you're concerned, then it'd be a good idea to check with your doctor, who might want to take an x-ray to see if there's evidence of a fracture. This is extremely detailed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not producing for you ads, sponsored ads. You're not having to sift through links, but at the bottom of each one of these responses to your query, we actually have some links to learn more. I see I've got Healthline. I've got newhealthadvisor.com. I've got Cleveland Clinic. And so I can
That's an
actually see
amalgamation of
reference
a
links.
lot of the links we see on the right there from Google.
That's right. Because what the AI bot is doing is it is searching the web and using its collective knowledge to provide you the answer, not a list of links for you to figure out if one of those is your answer. And I can actually see a challenge that the normal person faces in healthcare when trying to figure out what's going on with them and if they should go to the doctor and go see Luc, right? Because they're going to search in Google today and they're going to pick the answer that best suits them. The one that not only is hopefully true, but that makes them feel the most comfortable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, it's like, option number 5 says that I'm probably okay. That's the answer I choose.
Yeah.
Right.
Versus an AI bot giving you some information saying, look, this is what you should watch out for. It's almost like calling your on-call nurse, your triage nurse, and you're getting triage now by a search engine. That is a whole new world for us. Now, let's go back over here to Google. The second question, my bruises take longer, right? So let's say I go back into Google and I use one of these search queries that we've done, the follow-up, which is I have not been taking medications. The bruises take longer to heal. I'm just going to copy half of that prompt, put it into the search engine, and it doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Wow. That's quite interesting.
Again, I get more links about bruises. And a lot of these are actually repeat links. But Google doesn't know from previous search to this new search that these are connected. I'm the same person asking a follow-up question on this. And that is extremely powerful for, I think, healthcare as like the civilian population and their access to medical information that is accurate, vetted, and also it's not claiming to be the only answer. It is saying, here's what I think is probably the most likely. If you're still concerned, you should call your doctor because here's what they might want to do. They might want to get an x-ray. That is super helpful. I would be very interested in your response, Luc, because you've never seen that before. So what does that make you think of as a frontline healthcare professional?
I mean, that situation of what you just went through with the Bing search there is probably something that happens to me once a week, where I have friends or people ask me, or like, oh, you're a nurse, like, what do you think? And again, going through the whole situation and being able to ask one question and then get a response and then ask another question and still, having the details from the first one. I mean, that is huge. That's,
in a conversation with memory from what your previous, queries or your previous messages.
100%. I mean, that's textbook for just like you said, triaging, and probably what the ED nurses do. Sadly, I'm not an ED nurse, haven't, worked in that field, but I'm sure that's exactly how those conversations go. Or, I would say that's very similar probably to what and how those conversations go.
I used to work
Oh, yeah.
in the ED, and immediately, yeah, I work in, and so immediately, most of the questions go right to the critical acute problems that you might happen. It's like, oh, does it radiate anywhere else? Do you have any pain in your jaw? How are you on blood thinners? Are you bleeding anywhere? What's your blood pressure like? Is there anything I need to solve right now? Because if not, we're just going to basically send you to the doctor who's going to look at you and maybe admit you.
Yeah,
maybe not.
exactly.
This is an emergency department. Here's what I love about this. Connor, would you go to the emergency department now that you've had a conversation with this chat AI bot Bing, or would you call your PCP?
Probably
Or would you do
not.
nothing.
Honestly,
Probably not.
If I would probably just, I'd get that kind of peace of mind of, it takes, 2 to 4 weeks or whatever it could.
Right, an understanding.
It could bug you more if you're putting more stress on it. And then I'd kind of take that and be like, oh, okay, I'm fine then. I'll just give it another week or so. If it gets really bad in the next week or so, then I might go into the ED or something.
Well, and I want to stress, it's not telling you you're fine.
Mhm.
It's telling you, here are things that might make it continue to stay bruised.
Right.
And now you have information to go, well, I should probably stop putting stress on this and then ask again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably, maybe you should not play hockey for 2 weeks or something like that, right? Just coach for 2 weeks. But he's like, no, forget that. I'm going to play hockey. So this bruise is getting bigger, chat. Thanks a lot.
But no, it's me inferring what the information that they're giving me. So I'm making a conscious decision to,
yes,
I'm probably fine. They're not saying, you're good. You don't need to go to the doctor.
It's informing you.
Right.
You make the informed decision instead of, here's a list of links. You pick the one you like most.
Because if I ask WebMD that, they'd tell me that I have cancer and I'm going to die in 2 weeks.
Oh man, those WebMD pages where it has to run through the gamut. And the problem is that the signs and symptoms of any disease ultimately could potentially possibly be death. You don't know. It's like, oh, I have the chickenpox. What does this mean? Well, one guy died once of chickenpox. So it could be death, but probably not.
Yeah, no. And speaking from a nurse's perspective, at any time, any patient can become critical and get to the point where they need life-saving measures. And, coming back to the whole simulation and bridging that gap of being able to simulate a day as a nurse and going through those mental, the mental processes, and then having a patient crash on you, and not knowing which one, because that's my life. I walk in every day not knowing, is this patient going to, crash on me by the end of the shift, or are we going to make it through for the 12 hours and not have an issue the whole day? Never know.
And I dream of a day where patients come to the emergency department to be triaged a second time. Right? Not the day where that's today. People come to the emergency department because they're like, I don't know. You should know. Please tell me what's wrong with me. Only to find out 90% of the time, you actually don't need to be here. I worked with a nurse who was very blunt and in the emergency department. And the way that they started their assessment question was so unique when a patient first hit the bed, right? So the patient would come in through triage, they'd go into their bed, little curtain, I'm getting them on the vitals, I'm getting their IV in it as the paramedic there, right? And the nurse walks in and says, actually, it could have been the doctor now that I think about it. It might have been the physician. But anyways, the healthcare provider walks in to the patient and says, what is your emergency today? Which is a whole different way to frame the question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And the patient, it always made the patients pause. If they probably didn't need to be there, right? But the patients who absolutely needed to be there, it was obvious, right?
And they would 100% come out the gate with like, here's
what is my emergency today? And they would hold up a stump and be like, this is my emergency today.
And truthfully, they probably wouldn't even be asking it maybe 9 times out of 10. They're like, well, we know why you're here, It's like...
Yeah, and it's not... Right, and it's not to be disrespectful. It's to point out that this is, in fact, an emergency department. And if you think about what my emergency is today, you might do things differently. However, Google is not helping get people or preventing people from going to the emergency department unnecessarily, right? It's actually sending more people into the emergency department because they are WebMDing everything and they should stop. They're WebMD expert patients. All right, so I think we have gone quite on a long time, and thank you so much, Luke. So
my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Connor, you ever think of the artistry in Van Gogh's Starry Night or Picasso's masterpieces?
Oh, yeah. The way they've captured their imagination and put it to canvas, remarkable.
Exactly. Now, VR Patient's latest upgrade is like handing nurses and paramedics that same brush. The Infusion's authoring tool lets them craft immersive medical simulations, much like an artist paints a vision. Author basic to critical care simulations with real infusions, meaning not just 3D models, but the IV bags actually drain in real time. A VR calculator, a programmable smart pump, and so much more.
So educators can become the Van Gogh of medical simulations.
Precisely. And the best part, what they author is their own masterpiece, their intellectual property.
It's like going from a paint by numbers coloring book to true artistry in immersive medical simulation. Discover your palette at vrpatients.com.
Author, assign, and grade only at vrpatients.com.